Welcome back to another episode of Soft Life Secrets, the podcast where we explore the art of living well, working smart, and embracing joy without burnout. I'm your host, Miracle Dixon, and today we're diving into a world you might not expect to hear about on a Soft Life podcast. We're going to talk about craft beer. Yes, but trust me, today's guest is redefining what it means to create a soft, intentional life, even in an industry that's often been seen as anything but. She's the powerhouse behind the Atlanta Beer Boutique and the mastermind behind one of the most celebrated beer conferences in the country. Please welcome my dear friend, Jennifer Price. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hey.
Jenny is what I call her.
You do. You do.
This is a long time. I have to let you all know this is a long time friend of mine, dear friend of mine.
Yes.
And when she started this idea, it was nothing far from what I imagined.
Wow.
This is amazing. And I'm going to let her tell you about her journey. Jenny, welcome to Soft Life Secrets.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Oh my gosh. Just into craft beer. Just dive right in, huh?
Yes. What inspired you to become?
I can start at the very beginning, which is like being exposed to beer from my dad as a child. At maybe 5 years old, like having his first sip of beer. It was like a ritual we did every day. When he came home from work, he always had a beer, and I always had the first sip, just the foam off the top of it. And that's probably my first memory about beer. But college is when I really started being exposed to like high quality beer and like diving into the world of craft beer and trying to understand what it meant to make beer.
Okay.
And so that was a long time ago. I was in the 90s.
Wow.
So,
was there a specific moment that you knew beer was your path?
I would say when I came back home. I moved back to Atlanta in about 2006 is when I moved back here. And I was really excited about what was happening in craft beer in Atlanta. The East Coast and specifically the South was just kind of late to the craft beer movement. So with breweries opening up, you didn't really see breweries here until the 90s, whereas in other places like California and the Pacific Northwest, where brewing just kind of had its start in the craft community. I mean, that was in the 80s and the 70s. So we're really new to it. And when I moved back home, I saw breweries opening up, and I was just really curious about it. And I was like, this is really interesting, really cool. Like, I thought it was so neat that I could be drinking a beer and then I could meet the brewer. Like, he was probably behind the counter serving me the beer or in the back making more, and it was so accessible. And I'd always thought of beer of being something else.
Right.
I would go to brewery events. I would go to festivals, and I'd be the only Black woman there. Me and my friend Chanel, we'd be the only Black women
at beer
festivals. And I was just like, why aren't more people here? Like, we drink beer.
Yeah.
But I was just always curious about us drinking better beer. And so just being exposed to those events, being in those spaces and being the only person there, I was like, well, what can I do to kind of create more inroads into this industry?
Right.
Where we should be.
Now, you tapped into something. You talked about better beer.
Yeah.
And so to the audience, let them know what's the difference between the beers, because I had to learn this.
Yes, there is a difference.
It's a difference between the beers.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, oh, I don't drink beer. And I always tell them, that's because you haven't had the right beer.
I totally agree with you.
And so you were the first one that introduced me to craft beers.
Yes.
And I will never, ever drink a domestic beer ever again in life.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head. The domestic beer, which you think of like your Budweiser, even like Corona, beers that are produced in mass quantities. They're all over the place. You see commercials for them.
Right.
That's like domestic beer. It's not craft beer because it's made at such a high volume, and sometimes the ingredients, just don't qualify. A craft beer is a beer that's brewed in smaller volumes, smaller quantities. It uses traditional brewing methods, and those breweries sell under a certain amount a year. So we're thinking of smaller operations, like if you're here in Atlanta, that would be like Sweetwater, which is a big brewery to us, but it's still considered a craft brewery because it produces so much less than like Budweiser, Miller, Coors, those kinds of places. So
Sweetwater
is a craft brewery. It is, the second craft brewery that opened in Atlanta. The first one was actually a brewery called Red Brick, which has closed since then. Atlanta Brewing has closed since then, but craft breweries are small. They're unique. They come up with interesting recipes. And I'm glad you mentioned that there's a beer for everyone, because it really does come down sometimes to us just trying enough beers, getting outside of that mainstream.
Right.
And going into these smaller places and trying something off the shelf that you've never seen before, and really just dialing into what it is that you like about beer.
Right, right.
You do have to try them, though. You have to try them. And that's why it's so interesting now to see how much the industry has changed since I first started, how many more options there are.
Right. And so I technically got into beer. I mean, of course, we grew up together and we used to sneak and drink beer, but but I got into beer as I gotten older because I like to tailgate. And so when you're tailgating, you can drink alcohol, but out there in that sun, you kind of asking to pass out. You know what I mean? So I used to see people drinking them cold brews. And I was like, let me get a cold one. But it's once you've had a craft beer, it's nothing like it. Even in the tailgate experience, I've, bring my craft beers down there. Everybody's enjoying them. It's like, what is this?
Exactly.
But, of course, we still got Grandpop over there with his Miller, his Bud Light.
That's cool.
And that's cool, but I think it's unique. And I want to tell the people, Jenny used to do an event with a friend of ours, football and beer.
Yes, beer, football, and friends.
Beer, football, and friends. And so the twist that you put to it was food. And it was like a beer tasting. Just how you guys do wine tastings, Jenny does beer tastings. And it tell them about how it goes with the palate and explain the caramel and
so beer, just to break it down, beer is made from very simple ingredients. It's made from water. It's made from some kind of grain. So it can be barley, it can be wheat, rice, corn. You use hops and yeast. Those are the four main ingredients in craft beer. And so contrary to what people believe, beer is actually very close to like a food. The way it's produced, you have to take the grain, you boil it down. It's almost like making a tea out of grains because you extract sugar out of those the grain. You add a yeast, which makes alcohol. You add hops, which adds depth of flavor and some contrast. And then you let it sit until it carbonates and it's ready to drink. And so it goes very well with food because it is very well aligned with food ingredients, right? So you mentioned the caramel and some of the other notes you may get from smelling beers that are made with different ingredients. When you do have beer with food, it opens it up to a whole different experience. Some of the nuance that's in there that you may not pick up on unless you pair it with the right food is highlighted and uplifted. And then even just as you're drinking them without food, you can still kind of go through the steps that you would do with wine to experience it. So you want to pour it into a nice clear glass. You want to hold it up to the light and just kind of observe the color. Beers run the gamut in color, unlike wine. Beers start from very light straw yellow to almost dark black, depending on the style. So you want to observe that and respect it. You hold it up to the light and look at it. You bring it to your nose and get the aroma. What are you picking up? That comes from the grains. The aroma comes from hops. You might get floral. You may get tropical fruit. You may get something that smells like toast or bread or wheat.
Right.
All that's from the different ingredients and how they express themselves just through the nose of the beer.
Wow.
And you've only done two things. You've only looked at it and smelled it.
Right. How many of y'all have ever smelt your beer before you drink it?
You should. Yeah, it's a part of the experience.
They do it. I see people do it with wine all the
Yeah.
time, shake it around.
Yeah, experience that.
Experience it.
Yeah, and all of them smell differently. Yeah, and then you taste it,
Right.
and you understand how your palate perceives it. Sometimes they're bitter and really strong.
Right.
Sometimes they're super light with not a whole lot of flavor at all. Sometimes they're fruity.
Right.
And that's all because of the process as well.
Yeah. And I had to learn. You helped me find out what my palate was
Yeah,
yearning for.
what it was in search of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I like sours.
You do.
And ciders.
You do. Yep. Because you came into beer through cider. I know you were already drinking ciders.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you were drinking ciders before they were very popular.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that about you.
What was it? Angry Orchard.
You like the Angry Orchard, the Hornsby's.
And what was the green one?
That was
Crabbies.
The Crabbies. You like the Crabbies. But those are really good ways to get into craft beer because while cider is not beer, it's fruit used in a very similar process.
Right.
As we mentioned before, with taking grain, you just use apples or pears.
Right.
But it's an easy sort of jump into craft beer because I knew if you like ciders, you're probably going to like a sour. Because sours use a lot of the same ingredients. Sometimes they'll throw fruit in theirs. I know you also like a wheat ale, something real light. If you're thinking of domestic, that's like Blue Moon. I remember you liking that beer. But there's adjacent beers that are craft beers that use better ingredients.
Better ingredients.
And more sought after ingredients, some rare ingredients sometimes, expensive ingredients sometimes.
Right.
To create an experience for someone who may not be really into beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, tell the people too, because a lot of women are like, "Oh, I don't drink beer. I don't drink beer." Tell them about the beer punch, the amazing beer punch.
So we
refresher. We call it a little refresh.
Yes. It's a really good way to use domestic beer if you have it at the house. I had a party once and someone left
some Coronas.
It wasn't even Corona, child. It was like, it might have been Bud or something.
How dare them?
It might have been Corona too, but you can use any kind of beer, to be honest, as long as it's a light beer.
Light beer.
So it's just a drink that we concocted. And I know someone has done this before because someone else told me about this recipe a long time ago. But you just take beer, lemonade concentrate or limeade concentrate, and like a light spirit. So tequila or vodka, and mix it. And it creates like the most refreshing, like beer punch. It's almost like a beer margarita.
That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Little spritzer.
You can add you can add mint to it. You can top it with club soda if it's too strong. Yeah, it's a lot of things you can do. Beer is so versatile. You can make so many different cocktails with beer. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Good.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
I'm thirsty.
Were there any challenges breaking into the beer industry as a woman and an entrepreneur? Not just a woman, a Black woman. And how did you overcome them?
That's a really good question because, as I mentioned earlier, craft beer traditionally is an industry. It's a very white industry and it's very male.
Right.
So not only did I not see Black people at the events I would go to, I didn't see many women as well either. So it's just not a place where at the time we were seen. So it was a challenge. And a lot of the challenge was me. Like me thinking or maybe overthinking, who's going to receive information from me? Like, what makes me an expert? I think they call that imposter syndrome, where you just question yourself and what you can bring to the table.
Right.
So while a lot of that was me, I did also feel sometimes like just being the only person, it made it challenging. Like being an entrepreneur and a solo entrepreneur, it's just, it takes a lot of grit and a lot of like commitment
It was a lot.
to your passion to see it through. So I just started small. I overcame it by starting small, by, when I was hosting some of my first events through my company, just starting with friends, doing it at a friend's house and just kind of seeing what the response would be to having tastings and pairings and classes all about craft beer. And people were very interested.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah.
You gained my
Yeah.
interest in that, and I watched you from the beginning to now, and it's just amazing. Like, we're gonna
It's been a journey, right?
It has.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. We're gonna talk about this conference coming up. Hold on. So how do you curate the experience? You started out with the Atlanta Beer Boutique.
That's right.
And it was a cute idea.
Yes.
I love the fact that, it was going to be a boutique. Of course, ladies, we love boutiques.
Don't we?
But it was going to be the Atlanta Beer Boutique. And she's the founder, author of this amazing idea. And then COVID happened.
Yep.
What happened with the Atlanta Beer Boutique?
You know what? I can tell this story now without getting emotional, but it took a very long time.
I know.
Because as you know, I was working on it for for years.
This was a dream. Yeah.
It was a dream of mine to own a beer shop that you could come in and buy a 6-pack if you wanted. You could come in and get a pint, sit down with a friend. You could take a class if we had one that week, just to be like a centralized location where people of color in Atlanta could come and have beer, because nothing like that existed.
Right.
As time progressed and we were singing in craft beer and out in the community drinking beer and going to bars and asking for different beers, I saw a community growing up around craft beer that were people of color, and I was so excited about that. But at that time, there were no breweries or anything open where we could just go and kind of be. So that's what Atlanta Beer Boutique was going to be.
For us.
For us, yeah. I found a space in 2019 and then worked to open it up. I got all the permits and stuff done that I needed in order to start with the liquor licensing, because in Atlanta, you have to go through all the steps before you can get the liquor license. That's the last thing you can get.
Right.
I just started that process in January of 2020.
Right.
I got on the calendar for all the different boards you got to go through with the city, and then COVID happened. Yep, COVID happened. And I paused. The banks paused, the SBA paused, who held my loan, and they were like, we're not dispersing any more of these funds. We got to see what's happening with this pandemic. And I was just left in the balance.
Right.
Paying a lease on a space with no income coming in for it and no access to my working capital, which I've been approved for, obviously. And I just had to make a hard decision and eventually cut it and let it go. I couldn't continue to spend the money and burn those wheels, and it was the most difficult decision I made.
Right. But a lot of times when we look at things not going our way, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
And look what Crafted for Action has become.
Right. It wouldn't be that without all that having happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just like the lady earlier talked about, you got to believe in yourself.
You have to.
And you got to know how to change. Change.
You do.
Most people would have given up.
You know what? And I, at one point, looked at it as me giving up initially, until I read a couple books and did a lot of self-reflection. 2020 was a blessing in disguise for me, because a lot of things happened that year. My dad passed away on January 1st, who I closely associate my love of craft beer to.
Right.
The pandemic happened. I had to cut ties with my business after I sunk $100,000 into it. It was a lot. But being in that space where I couldn't go out into the public, where I had to kind of stay inside and isolate, it really allowed me to really think through what had happened, and to really deal with it, and to really work on myself. And I took a year to do that. But one of the things that was in the back of my mind and on my vision board was to do a craft beer conference. And I just didn't know how I was going to make that happen until we were in this environment that was 100% virtual. People weren't going out anymore. People were looking for connection and ways to stay in tune with each other. So in 2021, I launched Crafted for Action as a virtual conference. And that was sort of the starting point for where we are now in our 5th year as a craft beverage conference in person.
Right.
This June.
No, this conference is known all around the world right now. Okay,
Girl, world.
This,
Girl, I
yes,
guess so.
it
I did DM somebody from Africa last week. I did.
I mean,
Tola Kazi
just
Brewer.
imagine
Yeah.
people from Africa coming over here for the beer conference. It's
If not, they can join us virtually.
virtually.
Yeah.
Okay. So beer isn't usually associated with luxury or a soft life, but you live a very soft life.
I do.
How are you changing that narrative?
Go back to what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about how you taste and savor and enjoy beer very similar that you would to wine.
Put it in a glass.
Yeah. First of all, please, like no cups.
No cups.
Never. Unless it's like required where you are.
Right.
Like you can't have glass somewhere.
Right.
But if you're at home, pour it into the prettiest glass you got. There is a whole thought process behind having beers in specific glasses. We'll go into that in another time.
Oh.
But there is a specific glass for every beer, just like there is for wine. You know,
Wow.
there's a
Or a
red
drink
wine glass.
or a cocktail.
Different cocktails have short, rocks glasses or Collins glasses.
Yes.
Same things for beer. We have different types of glasses for different beers, but just pour it into a glass so you can just observe it and enjoy it. And just being intentional about enjoying that beverage, I think, harkens to a soft life, just being present and mindful in what you're doing. This respectful not only to yourself, but to the artisan who put that beer recipe together because somebody thought it.
Wow.
So just respecting the ingredients, respecting the culture around craft beer and what people have created in order for you to enjoy, I think is very soft. It's very mindful. It's very demure. Right?
Beer. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
How do you help people who are intimidated by craft beer find what they like?
That's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah. You start with questions. They're just talking to someone, finding out what they do like to drink if it's not beer. If I know someone loves to drink coffee.
Right.
Or they're into, lattes or espressos, then you're probably going to be aligned with a stout in the craft beer world, something dark, robust, and roasted. If you like champagne, you may like something more like a saison, which is a French style beer that is very effervescent and fresh.
Wow.
If you like, something that's very clean and not a whole lot of flavor, you want something that cleans off the palate very easily or that you can pair with a lot of different foods, then a pale lager might be something that you would enjoy. Wow. So you just start with asking questions, getting to know the person, what they like to drink. And then I can normally either suggest something that they should try, or if we're at a bar, I'll pull a couple of samples and ask the bartender to, let her try this, this, and this. And try it together and just talk through it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mindful process and it should be very intentional. I mean, at this age, like I'll be 50 this year. I'm not drinking. I'm not slamming stuff back just to be. No.
You want to taste it.
I want to taste it. I want to know what I'm drinking
and enjoy
where it's from,
it
and enjoy it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. At this age.
Yeah. What's the rush?
What you say? What's the rush?
Yeah.
Okay, the beer conference.
Yes.
Your annual beer conference is legendary. What sparked the idea of the conference? And we kind of talked about it, but hosting this conference sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
How do you balance the hustle and the ease?
Oh, I do my best to do that. That is a constant challenge because not only is it something that I am very passionate about, and it takes up a lot of my time, and I have a full-time job.
Right.
Right? Like I do all of this in my spare time. It's also, it comes at a price because it is a lot of work. And so I have to be intentional about balance and about like taking me time. I say that the thing that really sparked it was the pandemic and what happened with my craft beer store. That's what sparked it and kind of pushed it into the forefront. It was like, why not try to do it?
Wow.
And the thing that took it from virtual to in person to where this is our third year doing it in person, was just me, seeing that the community was really craving one-on-one time and attention. We live our lives on social media now, and it's so convenient. I'm so thankful for it because we can connect with folks who we would never meet.
Right.
had it not been for Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform you use. But having the conference in person gives us the chance to come together, really connect.
And you meeting people
in
from
real
all
life,
around.
from all over.
They actually travel.
People travel. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe people traveled to Atlanta to come to my little
and they look forward
conference.
to it.
I know.
They look forward to it.
It's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So how do you make the conference inclusive and welcoming, especially for those new to the beer scene?
Yeah. That really is where we try to dial in our programming. The conference, contrary to what people believe, our largest number of attendees and people who register for the conference are enthusiasts.
Okay.
So it's people who may not be brewers. They may not be professionals yet, but they are curious. They're interested in what craft beer is all about or craft beverage is all about. And they really are either maybe thinking about opening their own space or starting their own brand. And so they want to be in community with people who are like them.
Okay.
And so a lot of people who come to the conference are coming from that perspective. They're people who aren't in the industry yet. So the programming that we put together, the events that we put together, the speakers who we invite to come and talk are all coming with that in the back of their mind, that this group of people are folks who have been on the fringes or who, may get lost in the programming for a larger beer conference that focuses on technical stuff.
Okay.
We are a place where more of the creatives who are in craft beer can find a lane and a place. And so by doing that and making our programming something that's sometimes non-technical, we really do become more inclusive and more welcoming. Like that's who the conference really is meant to attract.
Okay. So give them a brief outline of the conference. I know you like to do a dinner one day.
So many things. Okay. So it starts on Wednesday with opening night bottle share. That's just a chance for people to come to.
Oh, I love the bottle share.
I know. This year it's at Wild Heaven. The whole conference is happening at Wild Heaven in Lee and White on the west side. And we're a beverage conference. So now we'll have beer, wine, spirits, non-alcoholic as well.
Non-alcoholic, y'all.
Yes, the full gamut. So on Wednesday night, we come together and we just share. We hang out. The panelists come. You get to meet each other. We'll have food by El Tesoro, which is a local taqueria. They'll do a taco bar that night for everyone who comes. And it's just like basically endless drinks.
Okay, so that's Wednesday.
That's Wednesday. Thursday is when the conference really starts.
Okay.
And on Thursday, we start and we have conference panels from 10 a.m. all the way till about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
We have yoga that day as well if you want to do yoga throughout the day. And that evening we have a happy hour, a beer dinner, which is hosted by one of our local beer legends, Ale Sharpton is his name, A-L-E, Sharpton. And that's a 5-course dinner, all paired with different craft beers. Amazing experience. Amazing. And that's also Juneteenth. This was June 19th. That night we're having a party at Atlantucky. That's right. At Atlantucky, which is one of 2 Black-owned breweries in the state of Georgia. And it happens to be here in the city. So that's what's happening on Thursday.
Okay.
Wake up on Friday, come back, go to some more panels, workshops. We'll have a walk that day on the Beltline if you want to go learn about art and culture. There's a bike ride that day if you want to ride on the Beltline. And learn about some of the history on the Beltline, some of those amazing neighborhoods on the west side of Atlanta.
Right.
We also have winemaking that day if you want to come and make your own gallon of wine. Lots of different demos on cider, on wine, and beer throughout that day. And then we do a pitch competition that evening for our fellows, which is our accelerator program that we started. We give away a micro grant every year to the winning pitch competitor. Last year we gave away $8,500 to the first place winner, and hope to do that again this year.
$8,500
$8.5
for a pitch.
For a pitch, a winning
think
pitch.
of me a jingle.
A winning pitch about your craft beverage business. But we have 4 people competing this year. That's our group this year, so we're really excited about that. And then that night we do a party called Brews and Beats, which is a music and beer interactive party. DJs and producers come to that. On Saturday, we have a community service project with Brewgether, which looks at local farming, urban farming, and craft beer, kind of the synergy between that. It's a community service cleanup day. We do have a panel, and then we have a beer tasting all wrapped into that event. And then we do a day camping event with REI and Outdoor Gear and Beer, which is just a chance to come out and just see what it's like to camp but during the daytime. So there's tents, fire pits, food, a beer garden there, wine tasting as well there. And then on Sunday, you can do two things. You can go on a wine tour with the Vino van up in North Georgia to Ellijay, or you can come hang out with us at our finale event, which is a closing share. Again, more beer, more wine, more spirits, to just kind of put a bow on the conference and all the fun things we've done throughout the week.
Now
so
I see
it's a
why you
busy
take
week.
a whole week off.
Then I take a month off.
A month off to do you.
I do. I have to. It's a
Oh,
lot.
my
But you know what?
gosh.
I don't do it by myself. Me, Chanel, Swerve, who's on the team at Crafted for
You have
Action.
an awesome
I have a
team.
great team. They're fantastic.
An awesome team.
Yeah.
And so, interesting that you say that after the conference is over, you take a whole month off.
I do.
Because I'm getting ready to talk about your self-care.
I do.
So what does self-care look like for you, especially as a business owner and working full-time?
Yeah. I try to, like I said, squeeze in moments in just a regular routine that I can do. So I meditate a lot. I meditate every morning, actually. That's a big part of my routine.
Okay.
Even though I have a full night's sleep, full night's rest, I still wake up and do like a 15-minute just meditation where I sit silently, quietly with myself.
That is good.
That's how I start my day. And then I maybe take a few notes into a journal. Not a serious journaler, but I just try to write something down. Gratitude, what I'm thankful for, what I'm looking forward to. And then I start my day. So routine to me is a very big part of self-care. So I like to kind of do those three things for sure. I'd like to get some movement in if I can. Maybe it's a walk throughout my neighborhood or a little yoga. I do that. I swim a little bit too, just to kind of keep my body moving.
Right.
But that's stuff I can weave into any time, any day.
Anytime.
When I'm working two jobs. But I do take that month off after the conference and just chill out. I'll either go someplace to a beach, or maybe that summer I go out of the country. But I try to work in travel, because that's a really big part of my self-care as well. Just kind of exploring and seeing the world as much as I can.
Right.
Seeing something new if I can every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what legacy do you hope to leave through your work in the beer industry?
I hope like a legacy of welcoming and inclusion and feeling like you belong. Like I want to create that, and I hope that other people have seen it and are a part of it. And then I hope to give away a whole lot of money to those fellows. Like so far we've given away $14,000 this year. Hopefully that number increases. I want to give away money and just make opportunity for folks where I didn't have it, or where I did, but everyone deserves to be a part of this industry. And while there's a lot of gatekeeping in craft beer, it just shouldn't be. It's beer.
Right.
It's just beer. It's not that serious. So,
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
I want people to feel like they could be a part of this.
They belong.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last and final question. In the past, you've brewed your own beer. Will you be brewing another beer soon?
Yes, I actually will be brewing a beer that will be available at the conference.
Yes.
So June 18th through 22nd and beyond, you can come to Wild Heaven Brewery in the West End of Atlanta and try a beer that me and the Crafted for Action team is brewing with Wild Heaven in commemoration of our 5th year.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Guys, you've heard it from the beer lady herself, Jen Price, better known as Jennifer Price. Where can they find you at, Jennifer, on all social media platforms?
You can find me at Crafted for Action on every social media platform. That's Crafted, F-O-R Action, and our website, craftedforaction.com.
Now, is it too late for them to get tickets to the conference?
Nope. You can
They
get
can buy
tickets
up to the day?
up until the day of. And for all of our events, you can buy at the door. So we hope to see you there June 18th through 22nd.
I hope to see you at the conference. Meet me there. Don't beat me there.
Don't beat me there.
Meet me there. Okay, wait. That was such a rich conversation. I hope you're feeling inspired to chase your passion and savor the process. Whether you're a beer lover or just someone on your soft life journey, there's something to take from Jenny's story. You can find her at Crafted for Action on Instagram, and make sure to check out the beer conference that's scheduled for June 18th through the 22nd. Until next time, keep living softly, sipping slowly, and choosing joy. Bye-bye.